What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I want to talk about Season of Discovery as a whole and why I think it's loved by so many people. There's just been an overwhelming amount of positivity in the community surrounding Season of Discovery. Yes, there's some people who don't agree with it or don't like it, but the vast majority of the player base is really enjoying Season of Discovery, and I would go as far as to say they love it. So today we're going to have a little bit of a chat as to why I think people love Season of Discovery, and I'd like to know what you guys think down in the comments below. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in. First things first, we take a sip of our coffee. Oh, that's good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Season of Discovery, right? Let's talk about how it starts, how it progresses, and the end game, right? So Season of Discovery starts, and if you were playing on the first week, finding all of those runes and all these new secrets out in the world, it's not just runes, okay? There are new creatures, there's new NPCs, there's new quest lines, there's new areas, there's so much new content in Vanilla WoW for people to discover, which people already loved Vanilla WoW. So let's start off by talking about the strengths of classic Vanilla World of Warcraft, right? Azeroth, level 60, like classic WoW, 2019 classic, 2004 World of Warcraft, right? The strengths for this were a lot different than the strengths for games like this now, right? Back then, it was all about community. World of Warcraft became extremely popular at the dawn of, like, online gaming, right? People were playing online games before, of course, yes, but this was like a really big thing because it was the first time where like you were able to like dive into a world that was persistent even after you logged off, join a guild, make friends, play with people all over the world, and feel like you were like going through this massive journey, right? Like leveling up your character, working your way to level 60, which back then took months for a lot of people. It was a huge accomplishment to get to level 60, and along the way you made so many friends, you made so many mistakes, you made so many enemies, right? So what I'm getting at here is that it was the community, right? The number one thing I think was the community aspect. Playing with other people was such a huge part of classic WoW. And then the next thing that was really big, especially when World of Warcraft first came out, was like this overwhelming feeling of discovery and exploration, and you didn't know what was around the next corner. You didn't know everything that your class was capable of. You didn't know every single item that a specific boss or mob dropped at the time, right? So you were excited to do these things and find out what was going on and what was going to happen next and where you were headed. And then over time, obviously, the game is pretty old and it's loved by so many people. Everything has been figured out, right? Classic WoW is a figured out game. Everyone knows the best thing to do. Everyone wants to play the meta classes, even though most of the game is playable and you can clear pretty much all the content in the game playing any class you want with almost any level of gear. Let's be real. So what happened over time was I would say that like you can kind of take World of Warcraft and put it in the same category as people who like to speed run old SNES games or N64 games, right? It's an old game that's figured out and people still really enjoy it, and what they enjoy about it is seeing how fast they can complete it, right? Speed running raids. Like think about 2019 classic, BWL speed clears, Naxxramas speed clears, Molten Core speed clears. That was the vibe going on. And Season of Discovery has now come out, and it's a little bit different than that, right? Yes, you still have people speed clearing it. My guild, we're doing the same thing. We're seeing how fast we can clear it in our main raid, and then in our alt raids, we're just having fun. And I think that's the right way to do this. But the past few weeks that we've been playing, it's been out for 2 weeks now, a little over 2 weeks actually, the overwhelming sense of figuring things out and seeing these new quests and these new events and new zones like the Battle for Ashenvale PvP event. Yes, there's a lot of, you know, bad things going on with that right now, but Blizzard is actively working to fix them. But even just the rune discovery system alone, even though you can look up where these runes are now, it's still really fun and it still ties into your character and your class fantasy, right? Like the Paladin Divine Storm rune or the Warlock Metamorphosis rune. I mean, we saw the community come together in a way that I have not seen in all of the 2019 through 2023 classic era of World of Warcraft. I remember sitting here a week ago watching Crix and all the other warlocks, you know, scour the entire world looking for the Metamorphosis rune or looking for clues and just trying to figure it out. And I think that is the single most important thing about Season of Discovery. And if there's anything to take away from this Blizzard, it's that. It's the community aspect and the exploration, right? This is huge in my opinion, and it's loved by so many people. I ran a poll here on the channel showing how much people are really enjoying Season of Discovery, and I think it is the best thing that Blizzard has done in quite a long time for that exact reason. The next thing I want to talk about is the level cap, right? We're stuck at level 25, and what this actually does is it stops people from finishing the game too fast, and I think it's great. There is a ton of stuff to do at level 25, and if you're someone who already has, you know, 4 or 5 level 25s and you've done everything in the game, you've gotten your epic crafting patterns, you have all your runes, you've cleared the raid, you're clearing it in 30 minutes at this point on all of your characters, that's great. But you just have to understand that most players can't do that, right? Most players don't have that amount of time to do that, and it's not a bad thing that you do, but you know, you have to realize for other people, some people are just now getting their first character to 25, you know? And the reason why I think the level 25 cap is so great, and these, like, you know, level gated, like, content phases that we're going to be going with here, I think it's actually the best thing for the game, and to me, this might be the main factor in why it's so popular, aside from the exploration, aside from the community aspect. And the reason for that is simply because everyone gets to experience the content. You know, when you really think about it, if this was just a fresh vanilla WoW, right? Race to 60, get your Priebus, get in Molten Core, spam Warsong Gulch, spam Alterac Valley, camp people who are leveling in Searing Gorge and Burning Steppes, that's what would happen, right? And you'd have a lot of people at level 60 within the first 4 or 5 days. Now, for an average player, getting to level 60 will take them well over 3 to 4 weeks, possibly even 2 months, okay? And you have to look at the community as a whole, right? Who plays classic World of Warcraft? Well, everyone can play it, but most of the people who play it, if I look at my YouTube analytics, and this is a Warcraft channel, most of the people who play it are between the ages of 25 and 50. Okay, so it has an older demographic. Not that we're old, but it's not a bunch of, you know, 18 to 25-year-olds playing. 90% of the people who watch my videos and consume my content are between the ages of 25 to 50. So that shows you right there, most of these people have jobs and lives and families and kids and houses that they're upkeeping. So to let these people experience this game the way they did back then and not be feeling like they're left out completely, like they're left in the dust, like they're level 10 and people have already cleared Molten Core. It's a good feeling, right? And there's some bad that comes with this, but there's a lot more good, in my opinion. Everyone gets to experience the content, and even for the super sweaty players that normally do clear the content within the first 2 weeks, it's slowing them down as well. It's slowing me down. I'm playing alts, I'm running around with my friends, we're doing world PvP, I'm leveling professions like fishing and cooking and stuff like that. I don't normally do those things right off the bat because I rush as fast as I can. And I think that having this level 25 gate over my head is really helping me to enjoy the game more. It's helping me to play the game the way it was meant to be played. And I think that that is, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why people love Season of Discovery. No one is left out. You know, that 1 or 2 friends that you have that you used to play with back in the day that now works, you know, 40, 50 hours a week at a full-time job and has a kid or whatever, they can experience this and play it. It doesn't take that long to get to level 25, right? It's a little bit of a grind, but it's not the end of the world. It's not a crazy grind that's going to take them over a month. Week, 2 weeks tops if they really can't play that much. And then the next thing we should get into here is the raid, right? The Black Fathom Deeps raid, the way it's tuned in a way that experienced players can enjoy it. There is a little bit of a challenge in there, but it's also tuned in a way where people who are pretty new to the game or even new to raiding in general can enjoy this raid, right? If you think about all the fights, the first boss, Baron Aquinas, it's super simple. There's a little bit of mechanics, right? You get knocked off the platform, you get knocked into the water, there's like tornadoes down there, you gotta get the, you know, swim through the bubbles to get a speed increase, to get back. It's a nice introduction to classic World of Warcraft raiding for people who have never done it before, but there's enough in there where people who are akin to raiding and enjoy raiding, or maybe they raid in Wrath or Retail or whatever, there's enough mechanics there where these people can enjoy it too. And if it's that easy to you, then turn it into a speed run, right? That's how you make it competitive, if that's what you want to get into. And you know, let's look at the second boss. The second boss in the raid, Gamura, the turtle. This fight is you know, we wiped on this a couple of times, and we're pretty experienced raiders. The first lockout, we wiped. The bubble mechanic where you can get knocked back and get chained into a bunch of bubbles and keep bouncing all over the place. You can't control your character. It makes you really have to, like, you know, pay attention and just make sure you know where you're standing. Make sure you don't get knocked back by the shatter. Like, these mechanics are fun and they're interesting, even for people who have raided before. Yes, they may seem easy to most people, but you gotta remember there's people out there that maybe have never raided before. So the mechanics are there so that we can enjoy them and have to deal with some mechanics, people who have done it for a long time, and they're there so that it's a nice introduction for people who've never raided before. Now, as you progress through BFD, you'll notice the mechanics get a little bit more intense with each boss, except for Akumai, but we'll get to that later. So the next boss in BFD, we have Lady Cerebus, right? We have the ad where she does the ice patches on the ground that'll freeze you if you're standing in it. She's not very hard. Really, you just either cleave the ad and her down at the same exact time, or you take the ad, pull it off to the side of the room, and burn her down. It's not a hard fight, but you can interrupt freezing arrows. There's a little bit of mechanics going on there. It's pretty much just a burn fight. But again, this is an introductory raid for people who have never raided before. So for us, those mechanics are like, okay, let's keep the ad and her together, burn them down as fast as possible, try and parse 99s. For other people, it's like, okay, what do? We have to interrupt these freezing arrows. We have to pull the ad off the patch. We have to drag her off the patch. Everyone DPS. Oh my god. Everyone run off the patch. So it's pretty much fun for everybody. Moving on, then you move on to the Murloc boss, right? We have Gelihast, and here's where it starts to pick up a little bit, right? We have the March of the Murlocs. You have to play Frogger and avoid those. You have to avoid the shadow crashes. There's a little bit more mechanics, and if you've noticed, that's where the raid starts to take a little bit of a turn. And then you move on to Lorgus Jet, right? Lorgus Jet, you have the totems. If you're not killing that lightning shield totem, your entire raid will wipe itself. So these are mechanics showing you that, okay, you need to tab off the boss and get these totems down. You need to dodge this giant meatball that's following everyone around. I think the way they designed the raid, in my opinion, is fantastic, because I'm someone who's been raiding for a long time, and it's still a lot of fun to me. But I can see how someone who's never raided before might struggle a little bit with some of these mechanics, but it'll teach them and kind of get their feet wet in the raiding scene in Classic WoW. So then you move on to Lord Kelris, right? Now, this is where it takes a turn for the worse for most pugs or people who have never raided before. The Kelris fight has a lot of mechanics. If you really think about it, the Twilight Lord Kelris fight has more mechanics than most of the endgame bosses in Molten Core, which is pretty crazy to think about. And it's a fun fight, and once you know it, you're going to be one-shotting it. But if it's your first time in there, or even your first time raiding, this fight is going to be a little bit of a challenge for you. And then when you finally get it down and see that epic staff drop, which we've gotten 2 epic staff drops so far, you're going to be like, wow, I can't believe we did that. That's awesome, but I'm afraid to see what Akumai is like. But don't worry about that, because Akumai is, in my opinion, not even close to the same level of difficulty as Twilight Lord Kelris. Akumai is a little bit of a challenge. It's definitely the second hardest boss in the raid, but Twilight Lord Kelris, hands down, is the hardest boss in the raid for most people. But once you get it down, you got it, and then you defeat Akumai, you get the pearl, you drop the buff, you get your trinket, maybe the sword drops, which we haven't seen yet, and I'm waiting for it. I just think that the raid is tuned perfectly. And by perfectly, I mean it's tuned really well for the casual player who gets to play maybe 15 to 20 hours a week. And it's tuned really well for the hardcore player, right? You could turn this into a speed run. The mechanics are there. It's fun to do. It's a fun raid that's really quick. So if you have a bunch of alts, like last night we did our main raid, immediately hopped on our alts and did a second run. And it's just, I think it's just great the way that they tuned it. And I think going forward, if this is how they're going to be making these level up content raids, it's going to just continue to be a huge success. And I'm honestly really excited to see what they do at level 60. I mean, if Twilight Lord Kelris is that difficult, I wonder what they're going to do with Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Naxxramas, maybe Karazhan Crypts, maybe the Scarlet Citadel raid. Like, there is a lot of opportunity for some really cool content here. And I think that they're on the right track with the way they're doing it. Now, the only thing that I see an issue with in all of Season of Discovery so far, we're only in Phase 1, is the Battle for Ashenvale PvP event, right? The Battle for Ashenvale PvP event, I can see what they wanted to do here, right? And the problem is really that the classic player base, including myself, we're always going to do what is the most efficient, right? We've seen this time and time again. Now, if you think about it, the most efficient way to do the event is to really just zerg the enemy leaders. There's very little actual PvP involved in the event. And this is kind of by design. Like, I know that Blizzard wanted there to be like, okay, tons of Horde, tons of Alliance fighting to get to the enemy leaders, this and that. There's a little bit of PvP, but for the most part, you type invite in general chat, you get invited to a massive raid group, and then you just go zerg down the enemy leaders. There's very minimal PvP. In fact, most people go out of their way to avoid the PvP and just rush to see who can kill the enemy leader first, much like Alterac Valley. But Blizzard has noticed this, right? And they've said that they've taken note of it, and they're going to use all of this when developing the next PvP zone, which I think is Stranglethorn Vale. And they're going to take this and learn from it, right? It was the first one. It's not terrible. You know, it's just a grind. You know, you get in there. It's just like an open world Alterac Valley. You zerg the leaders down. You get your Battle Hymn damage buff item, and you call it a day, and you get your rep. You know, I see what they wanted to do, but there are definitely some flaws. And of course, the classic community, we find the flaws and we pretty much are exploiting them. It's not really an exploit, but you're just kind of ignoring the entire purpose of the Battle for Ashenvale PvP event by just rushing at the enemy leaders and not PvPing at all. But you can't blame anyone. That's the best way to do it, right? Right now, that's the best way to do it. That's the fastest way to get your rep. That's the fastest way to get your honor. That's the fastest way to get your damage buff. So it's just, it is what it is. But they are actively looking, and there's been so many changes over the past couple of days. I'll link an article here if you guys want. I don't want to get into that. It's massive. There's been a lot of changes, but they're actively looking at it and learning from it and changing things. So that's all that really matters. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to share why I think people love Season of Discovery. I've just felt that there's this overwhelming sense of positivity in the community for the most part surrounding Season of Discovery. I think it's the best thing Blizzard has done in a really long time, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And there's part of me that wishes it wasn't even a season. I wish this was just a new version of WoW that was just going to go on for another 10 years. And like, where are we going to head? Nobody knows. The exploration is back. The discovery's back. It's a live version of WoW with classes getting nerfed and buffed and nerfed again and buffed again and things changing. And it just feels really good. It feels like a home for people who want to play a live version of WoW that don't enjoy retail and enjoy classic instead. So I'm really excited to see where this is heading, and I'd like to know what you guys think down in the comments below this video. This video was a little bit different than our normal videos. It was kind of just a rant. There was no script. I just wanted to talk to you guys and kind of tell you why I think that people love Season of Discovery so much. So if you enjoyed it, hit that like button. It really does help me out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. And if you want to hang out with me live, I do stream on twitch.tv/hammerdance Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll drop a link to that in the description below this video. And if you want to join an awesome Discord community, we're growing at a rapid rate. We're just a bunch of like-minded people who enjoy geeking out over Classic and Season of Discovery. A bunch of nice people in the Discord. We actually have an Alliance guild on Lone Wolf NA. We're starting a Horde guild on Crusader Strike NA. And it's just a bunch of fun. So if that sounds like something that interests you, we will welcome you with open arms. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.